back. Right now we're going to look at EQing the bass and kick. Now at the moment we've got something like this. It's just a bass line and a kick there. Now this is something that you really need to sort of get your head around, really. You really need to separate the frequencies out. Now I'm not going to use a short kick, we'll just use the long kick because it's got a lot of sub in it, and let's listen to that. It's not EQ'd or compressed or anything like that. We'll do that as well. And the other thing is the bass is, I mean, it's got sub in it, but it doesn't have a lot of sub in it. So we're going to look at that and then try and find another bass which has got more sub in it. So let's just do that. Let's duplicate this track and see if we can find a sound which has got a ton of sub in it. Now let's have a look. Let's actually switch the synth out for massive. Let's do something like this. Just trying to make up something quick here. Just go for triangle. Let's go to the release. Okay, it's not sounding too bad. Let's see. Let's put on. Didn't really want to do some any kind of sound design here. Let's just use that. Right, that's got a lot of more bass in it. Let's okay, good. All right, sorry about that. Kind of stop talking when I'm doing some sound design. Okay, so then we've got our kick. And we've got our bass line, so that's what we want there. Now the whole idea here is about EQing, so let's take a little look about our kick here. Now we've got nothing on our kick. We want to first of all throw a compressor on it. Now in Bitwig you've got these presets which you click on these little two arrows down here, and then it opens up, and then where it says init you click on that, and you can find some various compressors which are presets. Now kick compressor 2 is real clicky. The second one sort of allows for the tail a little bit, but we're still losing a lot of the tail. So we're going to just adjust the compressor here a little bit and the ratios. Going to go for a ratio of 1:4. I want the release to be sort of long enough. I'm still trying to get that tail. Now that tail's not really coming through with this compressor at the moment. If I bring the release right up there, we're compressing the sound down, but the tail's sort of disappearing. Okay, it's sounding all right there. You can see the reduction here is sort of staying on long enough and then releasing near the end of the tail, and that's kind of what we want. So we're getting this really like long subby sound. Okay, so that's good to start with. Now to EQ this, what I like to see the frequency ranges. So I like to use the Pro Q, the Fab Filter Pro Q, only because we get this neat little option where we can see pre and post, and we can see this waveform here, and this kind of really helps when you're EQing bass and kick. So this is our kick. Now it's got a lot of sub information on it, and I don't really need that much sound. Now this is where we start doing some sound design. Now there's some frequencies in here which I don't want, and I'm going to get rid of those. And there's also, I want to sort of bring out the sound a little bit more, the sound of the kick, or the sounds that I want to hear in the club. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to roll off the low end. Now it's up to you where you want to do this. You'll see producers do different things with the low end of the kicks, and what they're trying to do really is to sort of hear the sound of the kick and sort of produce a sound which is but it's sound design. You're designing what you want to hear, right? That's pretty much it. This is where I'm going to leave it. Now you've got a little thing down here which is the dB sort of. It's a sort of like how much of a cut do you want to shove on that. Now I like to sort of drop it to 12 dB sometimes, so we get this nice kind of curve. At the moment we're still getting a lot of sub in there, so what I'm really looking for is for my low end to sort of drop around about the 35 hertz. And so if we bring it over here, we're actually losing our kicky sub. You can hear that's all the stuff we're cutting out, so we don't want to cut all of that out. Now how this kind of really works is you move this along to the point where it starts affecting your sound, or starts removing the sound that you want to keep in. So if it cuts out, then it's gone. You've gone too far. If it's way down here, you're not cutting off enough. So you're kind of trying to find that balance. Alright, so mine's somewhere around about 36 hertz, somewhere around about there. That's what I want to hear. Now if I solo that, you probably can't hear that on your monitors, but there's a really low ring, subby ring here, and that's what you hear on the club. You're going to hear that, and so I want to keep that in. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to sort of boost, do a sweep around here. So the Pro Q's got this really cool feature. If I click on this headphone thing, I can kind of hear what the frequency range which I'm sort of selecting, which is really cool. So I'm just going to boost that some more. So what I'm looking for is some sounds which I don't want to hear in my kick, sounds which I know are going to be useless and sort of make my kick sound muddy, or non-musical notes. Okay, so I'm around about there. I don't want that, so I'm going to now bring the gain down and cut that out. Right, so my kick, it's got a very loud clip in this one, which I'm not really too keen on, but it comes through in the mix like really good. Alright, so next thing I want to do is I kind of like to leave a bit of room for other things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of this is up to you. This is kind of like me doing sound design. So I'm looking around about 258 hertz. I'm going to drop it a little bit there and sort of tighten the Q a little bit. And the other place that I like to drop it is around about the 400 Hertz, but there's not much there anyway, so we're not going to worry about that. And to sort of bring the sound up a little bit more, we're going to, well, in this case, we don't really need to do it because the clip in this kick is really loud, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to get rid of that one there. Alright, so that's pretty much just a rough EQ on my kick, and that's how I want that to look. So I'm going to leave this up here. Let's move on to the bass. Now this is the really subby bass. This bass has got sub in it too, so let's go have a look at that. We're going to load on the same Pro Q. I'm going to put this before the compressor, the sidechain. So we're going to open this up too, and we're going to put that on post as well. And now we're going to look at this. Look at how much sub we've got in here. We've got tons, right? So now we need to work out. We've got the dilemma, the producer's dilemma. We've got two really cool, thick, subby sounds. We've got the kick and the bass, and we need to decide which one we want to be rolling our track. So this has got some really nice warmth to it, this bass, and the kick's got a real nice ring. So I want the ring to come out of the kick, and I want the warmth to come out on the bass. So I'm going to have to sacrifice a little bit of the sub in this bass. So first of all, we're going to do a low cut. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the kick, and I'm going to find the sweet spot where I want to produce a sound which is warm, deep, a ringing subby sort of sound, but not super subby that it's going to sort of make my mix muddy. So we're going to cut the low end out. And we're going to turn it off and on. Am I on the right one? This happened before, we haven't been on the right one. Off. On. You can't really hear the difference, but it's cutting a lot of the low end out. Alright, so that's a good place to start. Now if we throw our kick back in, right, we're still getting that subby sound from our subby ring from our kick, and we've got our nice warm bass coming through. Okay, so that's a good start. Now we're going to look a little bit at the way we've EQ'd this. Now we've cut out 152 Hertz ish on the kick. Let's make a notch, and let's sort of bring that sort of roundabout to the same frequency. So we say 152, so we're around about there. Let's listen to that. That is a horrible sound, a horrible frequency, so we actually don't want that on our bass either. These are the sounds which we like to cut out. So we're not going to worry, we're going to cut that out too on the bass. But we also want to boost our bass sort of sound, the main sound of our bass. Let's see what we can do here. Need a wider cue. So it's around about 202 Hertz, somewhere around about there. That's a really nice sound that I want to sort of boost here. So let's bring the gain back down. Let's make the cue a little bit wider. Alright, so that's about 200 Hertz, and we've cut out to 58 over here. So we've kind of cut out that sort of frequency range anyway. So I think we're pretty good there. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to make space for each sound. Now, without side chaining, let's take the side chain off. We're still getting like a nice separation even without the side chain on. So we're getting, our sounds are sounding separate. Throw the side chain back on, and it brings out the kick even more. So that's sounding pretty tight. Now these are the sorts of things that you tune. Now also the kick sound is also not super tight yet. I'd like to do something else to that. Now I'm probably not going to go into detail on how to do that right now. But there is a way to make the sound even cooler. Alright, so that's pretty much the first part. Now we've still got another bass sound to EQ out. So that's two sort of conflicting sounds. Or, you know, we've got lots of sub in the bass, lots of sub in the kick, and we've kind of separated them out a little bit, and we've kind of got some kind of separation in, and we've made some space for each of the sounds. So you can see the bass is sort of peaking in the sort of similar range as the kick, yet we've still got the separation coming through. We've sort of boosted the sound of the bass here, and we've made a bit of space, so we've cut that out of the kick. So we've got some really good separation, and we've got some really good blending of our sounds. And so if we took the compressors out, we should, well, the sidechain out, we should still have something pretty similar that sort of gels in our mix. Alright, next sound. Let's drop out that one, mute that one, and open up this one. Turn off this compressor and load this one back on. No, we're still using the long kick. Wrong one. Alright, good. Now we're going to leave the same EQ on our kick, because this is what we want our kick to sound like. This bass here we want to now start EQing, so let's get rid of this EQ. Don't need that one on anymore. Let's load on the Pro Q and then bring that before the compressor, the sidechain, and we're going to set that to post. Right, so even though you can't really hear the sub in this bass here, we've actually still got quite a lot of sound here. Now we can cut quite a lot of this out. So this one here, we're looking around about 28 Hertz. Like I said, I like to have my bass sort of the tail end sort of almost peel off around about -35. To me, that's my magic number. This is what I like to do, and you can hear already that it's cleaned up that bass sound quite a lot. That's the compressor. Let's turn off the EQ. Lots of sub. Still sub in there, but not as much. So it's not going to overwhelm the mix. So let's turn our kick back on. Turn the compressor off. I mean the EQ off. You can only just hear it subtly. It's sort of it's affecting the tail end of the kick if we turn it off. Right, so let's leave it on. Now we need to do the same thing again. We need to make some space for a few things. Now we also need to work out where the frequencies are, which are really messy and we don't want to hear. Okay, so we're around about 129 Hertz in this one. Let's bring the gain down. Tighten up. I'm really going for like a -3, -4 sort of area. This is what we're cutting out. This kind of non-musical sound really swamps your mixes. That's why we're getting rid of it. It's called cutting. Notch and cutting. Notching and cutting. So we're doing that. Next thing we need to do, we need to sort of listen to our bass and kind of like bring out that sound that we want to hear. So in this case it's around about 154 Hz. Let's bring that back down. Open up the EQ a little bit more. Alright, so this one here is 154. We've really cut out those frequencies in our kick, so we've made room for that already. So we've actually done quite well. We've now got room for our bass. Now also somewhere around about 400 Hz ish to 500, there's this frequency range fills up your tracks quite a lot. So what we're going to do is we're just going to dip it out. And then boost a little bit around about 1K-ish. Once again, I'm listening for the frequency which is going to make the bass sound warmer or more full. You can hear that if I go off here, if I boosted this sound on this bass here, it would actually sound a little bit wrong. It sounds nasally. This sort of sounds hollow. This sounds warm and more full, more bodied. So this is what I'm getting at. I'm trying to boost parts of the EQ which I want to make it sound really nice. Alright, so we're out of time, but this is pretty much the basis of EQing kick and bass, and we've made room just by using EQ, and we're also using our dynamics, which is our sidechain compressor, to give us more space. So that's sounding pretty good, apart from that the bass is a little bit too loud. It's also not very fat. So you know, with your sound design you want to make your basses fat. Now this tutorial wasn't about making your bass fat. It's about EQing the bass and kick and getting things to fit and gel in your mix. Alright, cool. So that's pretty much it. I hope you've enjoyed that. That's a little tips and tricks about how to EQ your bass and kick. We've used two different kind of bass sounds, one real subby and one not so subby. We've used a subby kick, and we've made room for both in our mix. Alright, so I'll catch you next time, and yep, see you shortly.